But that's interesting. How are you taking them away? Aren't they leaving? They're not staying with the women they're impregnating. So, for example, there 13% of the population is black, and yet there's huge child abandonment because there's a cultural expectation that is different in black America than in white America, which is it's okay to impregnate a woman and abandon her in black America.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we have a brand new clip of Charlie Kirk debating a very confused young lady on campus. Let's get into it.
But don't you think that like there's a reason that a lot of the black community doesn't have a father, and it's because of systemic racism. It's because like black men are more likely to be in prison.
Oh yeah, so why do people go to prison?
For like a lot of the time it's because they're in poverty and they have no other way to get.
Okay, so they commit crimes.
Because
Yeah, but so wait, so wait.
Why do they
So wait, if you're
commit crimes?
So in poverty, we should give excuses for committing crimes?
Yes, because if they have no
like murder?
I did not say murder. I said I'm saying like if someone is stealing something because they have no money and there's no jobs.
That's so interesting. So you think most crimes are crimes of necessity in the black community?
I'm not saying most.
So like gangbanging is like a crime of necessity?
That I literally never said that. I'm saying
But you're making an argument of crimes of necessity. Like they're so hungry they can't handle it.
I'm talking about like crime that has to do with like getting food, getting stuff that you need to live.
Right, but we have food stamps for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have subsidized housing for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have free health care for any poor person that wants it, called Medicaid, that doesn't exist. We also have welfare, cash, for anyone that wants it, so that doesn't exist. So what is it they're missing that they need to go, sorry about that.
Well, the food, like a lot of food stamps might not cover all of what they need, and also housing is like, there's not unlimited housing. A lot of people who are unhoused have to like go to shelters, and then they get kicked out of shelters because there's a mandatory stay limit. So it's not like you just get a house.
It's not a stuff thing though, right? It's like if you need stuff, there's also tons of charities out there that can provide assistance, churches. You will not go hungry in this country. You will not starve in this country.
Yes, you will. There's
no, we have an obesity problem.
Street?
We have an obesity problem, not a starvation problem in this country.
What are you talking about?
In State Street, if any one of those people went to the local Episcopalian church or Methodist church, they will get fed. I guarantee it. If they go to a local food shelter, they will get fed.
Okay, but I'm talking, housing.
For housing. If we have Section 8 subsidized housing in this country, right? If you want to have a roof over your head, you can have a roof over your head.
With like thousands of rules, and you can't do anything.
Yes, of course, yes. I mean, it's not ideal, but the point is this. So let's just go back to the crime and necessity, right? Mm-hmm. So why do people commit crimes?
I'm not saying why all people commit crimes. I'm saying there are people who commit crimes because they have no other choice.
Got it. So why is it that other people that are as poor as they are in separate racial groups don't commit crimes at the same rates? For example, blacks are 13% of the population, and they commit over 50% of the crimes. Why is that?
Black people, I would say, not blacks.
Okay,
but
it's not. I could say whites, and you wouldn't care. So
anyway,
hold on. Right? I can say Hispanics, you wouldn't care. So don't police my language.
But whatever. I'm not policing your language. I'm just saying I would say black people.
Fair enough. But the insinuation is that I'm being racist. But that's fine.
Okay, that's your opinion.
Yeah, but so black Americans are 13% of the population and commit anywhere between 50 to 56% of murders, crimes, carjackings. Why is that?
Well, what percentage of the white population is living in the same level of poverty?
Got it. So there's twice as many white Americans in poverty as black Americans. Not the same percentage, but still, if you look at white Americans in poverty, they commit far less crimes than black Americans in poverty. Why is that?
Maybe it's because when you're in a store, like they follow black people and they don't follow white people.
What about murder?
Rural?
No, but why is it that, like, just saying murder, why is it that black people commit so many more murders?
White people live in rural?
Like, that's not, you're being followed in a store and you commit more murders?
Yeah.
You're making the rule, or I'll get to you in a sec, but
okay.
It's not a good argument. But let me just go back to one thing you said. Systemic racism, right? So the idea of systemic is that it's within our laws. Mm-hmm. There are some black Americans here listening. What can you as a white American do that the black American cannot do?
Let's see. I could go into a store and not get followed. The police could not track me down on when I'm driving. I'm less likely to get shot and killed while I'm driving. There's a lot of things that I can do.
Okay, so just to be clear. So if you walk into a local CVS here, how would you guys be treated differently?
Well, they would probably say hello, and they would probably like just walk, like let me in and like not follow me, and then.
So these are a lot of probablys. I don't believe you, but I'm talking about laws, right? So what in the legal code of America can you as a white individual do that the black individual can't? Because systemic means it's in our code, right? It's like, for example, like Jim Crow, totally get it. That's systemic racism. What is systemically your advantage?
Maybe like housing codes, because I know redlining isn't a thing anymore, but there is, isn't there people who are white are more likely to be given loans because of, like, they have less, like, I don't know, that's just the, like, it's back from redlining. Like, it's a lot of the same stuff.
So, guys, while this young lady finds her words and what she wants to say, if I can just ask you to please smash that thumbs up button for me out. And if this is not your first time here, hopefully this will be the video in which I can earn your subscription. Let's get back to Charlie Kirk.
I don't buy into any of that. So I just kind of go.
You don't buy into redlining, or you don't buy
into redlining. I don't buy any of that stuff that happens. In fact, it's the opposite. Loans are now given favorably to black Americans in certain cities over white Americans.
Okay, but let's.
So we could, because of I believe in. I know redlining existed.
Okay.
I don't debate that. Of course it has. But because of DEI and because of affirmative action, there's actually a preference given. But so let's go back to fathers, right?
Okay, let's go back to fathers.
So something happened to black America since 1965. So in 1965,
you mean the war on drugs?
Right. Well, so if that's your contention, that's fine. So in order to go to jail for the war on drugs, you have to be dealing drugs, right? Or you have to be caught with drugs. So if you don't
which is one of like the main jobs that you can have in a like poverty-stricken. Like if there's no jobs, like you're going to do drugs. I mean, you're going to trade drugs because that's the only option you have.
It's such a difference in worldview. You're making excuses for criminals.
Yeah.
And what an insult to poor immigrants that came to this country that didn't commit crimes and worked 2 or 3 jobs and worked themselves out of poverty and didn't decide to go deal coke.
Well, my father is a white immigrant from Poland, and he committed crimes, and he's fine now. So.
Did he go to jail?
Yeah, he did.
I thought there was systemic racism. I thought that doesn't happen very much.
I never said white people don't go to jail. I said they go more, and you're saying that white immigrants are fine and they don't.
No, it's far less, actually. I'm glad he went to jail if he committed a crime. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
So, but at the core of it, we have a difference in worldview, right? My worldview is I'm not sympathetic to people that steal, that loot, and murder, because that's a values problem. And I don't like making excuses for people that do things that are obviously destructive. Secondly, we have a problem in black America. The biggest problem is not racism, it's the lack of dads. If dads are around, kids flourish. And you know who agreed with me? Barack Obama. Barack Obama used to make this a central piece of his campaign. He came to this campus back in 2012, drew like a 100,000 person crowd, and talked about how we need to rebuild the black family and put dads back. Why doesn't the Democrat Party talk about that anymore?
I'm fine with having fathers. I'm not against having black dads.
For sure. I'm saying, but don't we agree? Has anyone heard that mentioned on the national scale in the last 10 years? Yeah, I mean, we've heard about
probably not.
Yeah, and
because there's bigger issues.
No, there isn't. See, that's the issue, is that this is what makes us different. As a conservative, I focus on if you have family breakdown, don't worry about climate change, don't worry about systemic racism. All that stuff is like these crazy abstractions.
What do you think create family problems? Systemic racism creates family problems. If you take away black people from their families, then they're going to have broken families.
Okay, but that's interesting. How are you taking them away? Aren't they leaving? They're not staying with the women they're impregnating. So, for example, there 13% of the population is black. Not every single person ends up in jail, obviously. And yet there's huge child abandonment because there's a cultural expectation that is different in black America than in white America, which is it's okay to impregnate a woman and abandon her in black America. It's not
based on what? What is that based on?
That's a good question. Where does it come from? It's just based on...
No, I'm saying what is that, like, your view of black America?
Well, it's not a view. It's true. I mean, don't take my word for it. Look at Thomas Sowell and Shelby Steele that have done amazing analysis on this. It's that in black culture, that is not considered to be a stigma. In white upper middle class culture, for those of you that grew up in Waukesha or Libertyville or grew up in Hinsdale or grew up in Naperville, you guys all know those neighborhoods. If you impregnate a girl, a woman, and you just like abandon her, that's frowned upon. That is a social stigma in upper middle class white culture.
And it's not in black culture?
No. In fact, it's glorified by the rap culture.
Notice how Charlie always says black Americans, not black people, black Americans, because black people that come in from other countries do very well. the ones that come in from Nigeria, from Ghana, a lot of the Caribbean countries, Jamaica, even though they originally came in as poor classes like the Asians, they thrive. That also has to do with the fact that they have a mother and a father at home. They got the nuclear family on lockdown. Fatherless homes is generally not a problem in those immigrant families. It is a big problem in American-born black families that have been here for generations, especially those that have been here since the Lyndon Baines Johnson Act. And what this lady is talking about, this young student, I shouldn't call her a lady, but this young adult, because they are adults, when she talks about the loans that black people can't get loan, when she talks about, you know, the grocery store, the anecdote about the grocery store, that's what's taught in critical race theory, that black people can't get loans, which is today nonsense. What, you think banks don't want to make money? You think black people don't own homes in America? If you meet all the criterias, and there's incentive for black people right now. They have incentives in the banks in order to make them homeowners. But let's say the playing field was all even. There was no incentives. If a black person goes into a bank, or an Asian person, or a Hispanic person, or a white person, they meet all the criteria. The banks are there to make money. They will give you the loan if you meet the criterias. Now, the anecdote about the grocery store, that's taught in critical race theory as the original sin, that white people are racist no matter what. No matter what you do as a white person, you're born with a mark of Cain on you. So that's the example they use. If two people walk into the grocery store, a black person and a white person, if you serve the white person first, that's because you're racist towards the black person. And if you serve the black person first, that's because you don't want them walking around the store and stealing from you. So you can't win. No matter what you do, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Now, even if you lived in a neighborhood where, say, you've been robbed a few times by a low jean wearing thug looking black guy and you followed him around the store, then they would still say that you're racist. Never mind the fact that you have pattern recognition, and pattern recognition is not racism. If something happens to you a few times, if you're a black store owner and white people come in and rob you all the time, you will eventually probably just follow the white people around and say, I'm not going to get robbed anymore. The system is not racist. There are no laws in America that favor white people. None, zero. You can't find one. Now, there are laws and orders to favor black people, like affirmative action, and minorities, but there are no laws in America that favor white people over anybody. And to say that the system is racist, when if you look around you, you can just see it's not true. We have black people in positions of power everywhere. Hell, we had a black president for 8 years, the most powerful position in America. And how can you say the system is racist if that is the case? That's the media. When she talks about the police shootings and police brutality, police are against blacks, that's the media that does that. There was a poll done in 2020 that asks Americans who described themselves as liberal what they thought the number of unarmed black people killed by the police every year was. And they said a crazy number. They said between 1,000 and 10,000 every year. When they asked people that were self-identified as very liberal, they thought the number was over 10,000 a year of unarmed black people killed by police. When in reality, the real number is around 10. There seems to be a big misperception amongst this generation right now, and again, that has to do with the media. It's extraordinary. If the media covered the police shootings of whites with as much monomaniacal intensity as they do the shootings of blacks in America, the country, you would think that we're living through an epidemic of racially biased cops towards white people. The perception that people have is due exclusively to the fact that the media will only cover police shootings of blacks. Only. Now, I'm not saying we want to have any shootings of civilians or unarmed people at all. Ideally, there would be none, but we don't live in an ideal world. And police, given the violent crimes that are going on today in society at a magnitude higher than anything we've ever seen in history, police more and more every year encounter armed, violent, and resisting suspects. Yet in 2021, which is the last data that I have here, allegedly unarmed blacks who were killed by police, if you can guess the number, write it in the comment section below, the number was 6. And the reason I say allegedly here is because this data comes from the Washington Post, which is very liberal in how they define the word unarmed. The real way that blacks are killed in America today is in these crazy homicide shootings, a lot of them drive-by shootings, utterly insane, by other black people. Over 10,000 blacks killed in 2021 compared to 6 unarmed blacks by police officers. And these 10,000 blacks that were not killed by white people, were not killed by Asian people, were not killed by police officers. They were shot overwhelmingly by other black people in their neighborhood. And yet we've become committed to this frenzied narrative of ubiquitous racism that we turn our eyes away from what Charlie Kirk is talking about here, the breakdown of the inner city, fatherless homes, and we pretend that it's white corporations, white people, and the police that are hurting the black community. I don't think so. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to the channel, help it grow. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.